Welcome back. Welcome in. This is Country Roads Confidential at earsports.com. It's a Paramount podcast. I am Mike Kazaza. That is Chris Anderson. Chris, what do you say we stop right here and come back in 1 hour and 58 minutes and finish with a bang? Would that sound good to you?
Is there some sort of weather event thing that I don't know about? One of those, like not a jet stream, obviously, because it's over land and in Morgantown, but a lightning stream that's going over Morgantown. I don't think there's any other team in all of college football that's had as many lightning delays as West Virginia has over the last few years.
Yeah, they knew this one coming in. Like yesterday, I was talking to people and they're like, yeah, man, right around 2 o'clock, watch out. And I was like, what? And I looked down and it was like they really warned us about 2 o'clock and I guess about 2:45. And they said right away, like, there's going to be lightning in the area for an hour. We plan on starting around 4:30, 4:45. I think 4:44 was the restart time, and they came back out at 4:29. So that is pretty precise. Yeah, weather, that's cool. It gave you time to get back from your tournament, your baseball tournament, watch the game, get caught up on what was really a forgettable and I would say maybe decisive in that it could have contributed to certain demises. That kind of performance. And then rain washes everything away, literally, Chris. It got a little bit uglier for sure. And then the team that blew a 10-point lead last week in the final 455 erases an 11-point lead in the final 539 today. This is an improbable yet required win for West Virginia. Let's just start here, Chris. This is way too simple for the audience that's very smart and probably knows this answer, but I think it has to be asked. How important was this win and to not get blown off the field down 11, then who knows, maybe down 18, down 21, who knows, but to actually come back and win the game. And then afterwards, Chris, I mean, they shook a lot of salt on their post-game meal. It was pretty incredible how much they'd been reading their clippings the past week. There were no flowers in the post-game because they had all their clippings from the last week.
Yeah, I mean, obviously huge. I think we called it the loser leaves town match. Whichever team loses this is season's more or less over. That's it. And I think you go back two podcasts of ours, and we said, is it the I think you said, hey, nobody's not getting fired midseason. Like that's probably not going to happen, or at least not that week. All that kind of stuff. We said, if there is a world where things get back on track, where things get amended, you would need a run of a handful of important wins over quality ish teams. I think I'm throwing the ish in here for Kansas because I was not thoroughly impressed with what I saw from the Jayhawks today. But big picture, this was step one in what is a 5-step parlay, basically. And anybody who gambles and does parlays, you have to hit a bunch of them if you want to have any luck. And I think West Virginia needs basically maybe all five for really the things to be amended. I'm not saying for Neil Brown to keep his jobs. I'm saying amended, and I keep saying that word because it's a fractured relationship between the coaching staff and the fans right now. And there's 5 games in a row here, 3 of them currently in the top 20, 2 others that were at one point ranked in the top 25. If you can get through that, I mean, again, like I'm saying this with the knowledge that it is a wild long shot. But if you can get through that 5-0, I think the first couple weeks are almost forgotten. Almost forgotten. 4-1,
Yeah.
probably doing all right, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree 100%.
Yeah. So
Um,
step one in a ridiculous long shot parlay is what I'm saying here.
yeah. I don't know where to begin because I don't want to begin at the end. I want to kind of begin at the beginning here. And for people who aren't familiar, you were out for a little bit for a Little League baseball tournament. We won't go into what happened, but you got to watch the game. You got to, again, double speed, 2x. And I'm guessing that you probably worked in reverse. You probably caught to the score, started with the score, what the progress was, caught some fan comments on your feed, your timeline, your DMs, your texts, and you're like, all right, I need to color in the blanks here. So you can go back to the beginning and you're watching. What did you see? Because it was not pretty. This is a team. There's no way you can tell me that Kansas had the better offense. I don't think that's any question. The defense, whatever, but I couldn't believe that West Virginia's defense was struggling. I'm not even sure West Virginia's defense was struggling, but this didn't make sense. They looked so good offensively to start the game, and then it vanished. And all of a sudden, Kansas, which not a good offense, has the lead. Um, what did you see to get to that point, working in reverse as you did?
Yeah, you're right because I think I missed entirely the first quarter, caught second, third quarter on the radio, then caught up live. Got to go back because of the lightning delay and watch everything to really kind of understand it. And yeah, there was some confusion because at times you're watching this, and I put it on the board, like felt like I was having whiplash watching this West Virginia offense because it would go from holy cow, looks amazing to oh my God, they've already punted again. How did that? They just had, 3, 4 amazing looking plays. They look unstoppable. Oh, they punted. Oh, look at that huge. Oh, they punted. Oh, look. Nope. It's Kansas ball again. It wasn't. I couldn't kind of wrap my head around it at first because I was like, I don't understand why this is going so awry. I have some thoughts on that. I think part of it might be again, and maybe this is the larger discussion of what is the offense for Garrett Green, and can we just, you know, this isn't like why can't they make the whole plane out of the black box thing? Why can't you do the 2 minute offense the entire game thing? But that just seems like his offense. Why it needs to be fully centered around him, I think. And it didn't it seemed like it was fully centered around his arm at times for better and worse early on. And I think that's maybe why it felt so disjointed, I believe is the term I'm looking for here for that first kind of 3 quarters.
I think people are going to go and look at the final box score today and just think about what people said about Green during the week. And never mind the passing. The passing was, I mean, pretty much a Garrett Green game, like 15 for 30, I think, for almost 300 yards. That's a Garrett Green game. But you know what else is? Like, what here we are, 17 carries, 87 yards. Chris, he ran 22 times, 28 times the first 3 games, and like 22 of them were design. It wasn't scrambling. And he was getting in about 2 games last year what he gotten in 3 games this year. And all of his efficiency and explosive numbers as a runner were gone. He was not scrambling. Here's a guy who was scrambling 5% of the time for like 12% of his yardage. Last year, it was like 15% of his time for 45% of his yardage as a rusher. That's a huge contrast. And I don't think you go into a game saying, hey, Six, do me a favor, drop back and then just scramble. But Green said something really funny, but also really kind of insightful after the game. He said that he and Brown have reached a point now where it's very comfortable for him to say, and again, this is him saying this. He said, I don't, it's not a problem for me to go back and say, pardon my French, F it. And then just to run, which is what he did. And it's not just those final 2 drives, and in particular, when he was just maybe one read and not even dump it and go, just one read and go. But even before in the first 3 quarters, or when they were looking good or they had a chance to do some things, he was running, he was moving, he was bailing out, and sometimes he made plays in the run and with a throw, and sometimes he ran. He got to the middle, he got to the sideline, he made some things work. And you're right. That's just a better thing for them to do. I think it's impossible to engineer your offense out of the playbook that you have for the 2 minute because it's a pretty narrow playbook. You don't have a lot of time to filter through plays. You probably have like 4 runs and 4 passes. And even if you want a formation indifferently, you kind of can't because you're trying to go fast. So that's tricky, but they can get into that more often. And I think back to what Brown said during the week, they have maybe room for 10 to 14 tempo snaps a game. They might want to up that ratio a little bit, don't you think?
I think that's a good move for them. And of those 87 rushing yards for Green, 69 of them came in the second half.
Yeah, he's good.
And it's funny, I was trying to go do that quick math because we don't have it separated for individual players on these stat sheets for first half, second half. I mean, maybe they do. I don't know if they've sent that out yet, but so what I do is I go to the play by play that we have, and I control F, find Green. There you go. You want to know how many times Green's name comes up in the first quarter?
Twice.
It's a handful of times, 9 times, 10 times, 6 times. That's quarter one, quarter two, quarter three, quarter four, 20 times. 20 times where Green, either ran or passed the ball. Like the offense, again, I know it was 2 minute offense and he was kind of doing it all there, but that kind of shows how he kind of took over the game. As Neil Brown said, when it was winning time, he won. Um, I mean, just embrace the feat, let him go.
Before we get to the end, maybe this is the end. I'll get to this. Did a loser leave town tonight?
I think Leipold's got some, well, but offensive coordinator might be done. That was it is another reason why I was like, I just don't, I say ish as far as like good ish teams because I don't think Kansas is good. You already noted that they didn't have a very good offense. There was a point where, what was it, that 3rd and 4, where like, this is the most important play of the game for Kansas. You posted on the board, here comes speed option.
I
I
did.
responded, of course, they have to. it's been so successful. And then they tried like a stretch run where West Virginia had four defenders that met Neal 5 yards deep in the backfield. That's oh, that's next level play calling right there.
Have you seen their schedule? This is the first of three in a row on the road for them. They are a bad road team. Even under Leipold, they're a bad road team. They were 4-12 in road games before they won. No, actually, they're 4-12 in road games under him before today, I think, something like that. That's not good. And they played two more road games without a bye. So they're playing back to back to back on the road in succession. I don't think there's a bye in there. You can correct me if I'm wrong there, Chris. It's a long way for them right now. They don't have much of a home field advantage. So are they looking forward to coming back to that warm, loving crowd at the soccer stadium they play in for what could be a 1-5 team? Um, I mean, they're staring up at it right now. That's difficult. Let's go to the finish here, Chris, because the delay happens, and I'm workshopping takes this entire time during the 2 hours because my takes, as you know, are on a roll. No comment. Okay. So I'm thinking, all right, realistically, this is the best thing that West Virginia could have asked for. You don't like the delay. You can't do anything about it. However, you get off the field on a 4th and 2. That's great. They don't want to go for it because they're a little bit worried, but they don't have a ton of respect for your offense. So they take the delay. It's 4th and 7. So you got a whole bunch of time to figure out what you're going to do in offense. And then, yeah, make some changes on defense. Maybe get some people some IVs, some water, some orange wedges. Maybe who knows? Maybe Burks comes back. Maybe guys who are tired are a little better. Maybe Crandall's healthier. I think he got back in the game before the break. Um, but you feel pretty good. Like, all right, you can go and you can talk up your defense for 2 hours because you just got off the field. You're as good as your last play, your last series, right? So you can pump them up a little bit because you're gonna need them, and then you can get something going with your defense, your offense rather, because you got the ball and your offense should be good, especially at home, especially when you have time to script what you're gonna do coming out of this break. You've seen 3+ quarters. You know what they're doing. You have a second halftime basically. Do something. What happens, Chris? A really flat 3-and-out and the defense gets smushed, just like completely outflanked on a reverse where like I think the numbers were maybe 5-on-2 on the blocking, which is incredible on a reverse. And you're just thinking, wow. And this is like an axiom of mine, Chris. If a team cannot make the best of a good situation, which is what West Virginia had, they're not going to make the best of a bad situation, which is what West Virginia acquired with that sequence. And I'm wrong because they were in it. I mean, Brown is in the jungle. He's down 11 at home to an inferior team, and he wins, which is really unlikely. I just thought it was really most remarkable, most bizarre, most noteworthy for me that everything had set up for them to be in a really good spot and they blew it, but they hung in there. And then, as unlike as it may have seemed, they made the best of a bad situation. And that is certainly something to build on now because you have time off to talk yourself into being good. And we can talk about this. There was a lot of post game stuff about them reading their clippings and keeping score about who said what about this player, about this side of the ball, about Brown said and was looking at somebody in particular in the audience that he doesn't get enough credit for his good timeouts, but he gets a lot of heat for the bad timeouts he calls. Um, they were
Timeouts
really
today.
attuned. They were really attuned to the criticism, and now they get the "I told you so" for 2 weeks. Like it is a really abrupt. I mean, it's a series of 180s, Chris. I guess it's a 360, but they went from in a good spot to a bad spot to in a good spot again, which they're going to need because what they have coming up is maybe as hard as it gets in the Big 12. They have to go to Oklahoma State. That's a team you're going to have to leapfrog if you're going to try to get to the top. And listen, they could be 3-1 very easily. They could also be 1-3 very easily. You'll take 2-2 at this point and do what you can with it.
I think the that moment right when Kansas scored on that reverse, where like you said, right, because I said that I noticed the same thing. It was just wow, they're wildly outnumbered. There are so many blockers that Kansas blockers don't know what to do. They're just running ahead of the play, going, I don't have anybody to block.
Mhm.
And on our board, on our message board, when people post a new topic, little notifications come up, little blue boxes at the bottom. And at that exact moment, I was going back to the board to get ready to type something, and I couldn't get into the reply box because so many people on our board were typing "fire him now," FNB, which I assume means fire Neil Brown,
Fire.
and on just repeatedly new topics just over and over again. And I'm with you. I was like, yeah, this that might have been it right there. Like, because to your point, I was not expecting West Virginia to kind of hunker down and say, all right, Now let's turn it on. Now let's come back and take it over. And they did.
I say going to Oklahoma State's the hardest thing in the Big 12 for West Virginia. I mean, it's a place that not played very well. Brown actually has a win there, but they're actually, as we're talking, they're probably going to lose at home to Utah. So again, is that tall
And
of a
Utah's
challenge right
starting a
now?
freshman quarterback. They're not even
Yeah,
starting, what's it, like not even rising and not even his backup. Like I think it was like a third string quarterback. So
yeah. So maybe that's not that difficult. So I guess it's college football, man. The Big 12 is going to be volatile, and maybe this is it right there. I think that's probably really important to do. What did you make of the very salty post-game press conference? I don't know if you heard the players. I would go back and listen to the players if you have a chance, if you haven't already. Not just you, Chris, but some of the people listening too. They were asked about it. They talked about it too. They did not agree. They didn't like, but that means that they certainly acknowledged the criticism and the heat on them this week. Ingested it, digested it, and spit it back out after the game.
yeah, I haven't got the players yet. I noticed a couple of comments from Neil Brown. Let's slow down a bit. I mean, because Neil Brown did note, hey, it's just one game. It's just got back to even. That's all it is. He made a few comments like that. So as far as the, you know, throwing it back at reporters and fans and everybody else, reminder, it's just 2-2 right now. So slow down a bit on that stuff, I think.
So that is Chris with the ping pong back.
Not yet. Not yet. Save
Uh,
it. Step one of this 5-step parlay.
Well,
Hit
the
it.
defense is fixed now. I don't know if you got the memo, but everything is all good on that side of the ball. And just very
Can I
simply
ask you a
because
question? Because I didn't notice that many differences. Like, I mean, first off, let's take a moment for a compliment before we get back to the negative. Because I did have a question for you that I had written down on my thing. Are the front two lines of West Virginia's defense good or very good?
I thought the way they played today, and this will go into your changes, I thought the way they played today, their linebackers were great. Like they
Yes.
put a lot on Lathan and Trotter because they're like, listen, we're not getting beat deep. This team can't throw the ball. We're not getting beat. We're going to give these guys help. We're going to play back more. And if Daniels can pick us apart by completing 80% of his passes, okay, but we're not gonna. But that also meant that we also know Kansas is going to run, so we're going to have you guys fill gaps and come downhill, just screaming downhill and play hard. And they did that really well. They missed some tackles, but they made some tackles too. They closed some gaps and made some plays. But in concert with that defensive line, Chris, like Nate Gabriel's going to be a good player. Like
Mhm.
he's not in there often, but you notice him when he's in there. And I wrote this last week. Like if you remember how he played against Pitt, and he was noisy in there, and you think, wow, that guy must have played a ton. He played really good. I saw him all over the field. He played 9 snaps, but he made him count. And today, I felt like he was in there a bunch on stuff where he just grabs somebody and lays on him. They've got a good thing going with their rotation at that nose spot right now, and think you might have worried about that because what can they do with a true freshman, and can they supplement it by putting Vesteranen in there or Martin in there? Well, you can't do that when Vesteranen gets hurt, and Jackson probably can't play the nose. He's an end or a tackle, and he probably not even be a tackle really, but he's just a mismatch there. They were able to figure some things out. They got run over a little bit, but also just because like they gave that secondary so much help that they played back a bunch, and if you got stretched out, it was going to be hard to rally. And then when they lost Burks at Spear, you're asking Garnes to fill gaps as a runner and to play like contain as a runner and set the edge outside. That's hard for him to do. So yeah, those linebackers I thought were really good for what they had to do. At the beginning of the game, the defensive line was just harassing Daniels. Got good snaps out of French a couple times. Bradley's been pretty consistent too, helping out. Like, yeah, those are good things right now going on right now. The trouble is that it has not been consistently matched by the back end. And even today, like that back end was that back end play Kansas is the best thing I can say. Like that's not going to work against some teams that are going to play later on. I don't think that just to answer this question, yeah, like those two units you just mentioned, Chris, they were good today. And I thought the linebackers, especially Lathan and Trotter, they played really well.
Yeah. But you're saying so the big because my first question before I intercepted your answer to give you a second question was how different was it? And you're saying so like the secondary was deeper, they were playing deeper. This is the view from the press box that's probably better than anything else the rest of us get to see.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to talk to Jordan Leslie after the game. So, and he's not available this week because they only have Neil Brown on Monday because they're off next week. So it'll be a while before we can. I don't think that they did as much twisting and stunting up front as they did. I think they tried to get in their position and stay in their position and not get out of the way because they missed some. They got in trouble with the scrambler last week when they didn't twist and stunt the right way. So if you're in the inside guy and you're twisting out, you've got to get outside that tackle. And sometimes they didn't. And then all of a sudden, when the tackle pushes you inside, that opens the outside for the contain. If you do that against Daniels, you're in for a long day. So I think that they were different. They didn't do as much, or maybe not that well, or as often. I'm not sure. It just didn't seem like they did it that much. And if they did, it probably was effective, and it wasn't a problem in creating extra gaps or unnecessary gaps. That would be one. Two, I thought that like when they played zone, they they're this sounds so easy, but it's also apparent when it happens. They just drop better. Like they didn't get caught and take the bait, and they filled their drops. They weren't retreating and scrambling on skates like there were times in the past when guys are already open. And for evidence, Tyron Bradley's interception. That's just a guy who sees what he's supposed to see. He makes his key. The guy that he's supposed to is just kind of staying back, so he drops, and he's right there when the quarterback throws it right to him. That helps out that way. And then I just thought that they were really passive with their defensive backs. They were not going to be aggressive. They were not going to ask Crandall and Spells to play a ton of man. They really bump and run with people. Just keep the ball in front of you. Do not chase the guy into the end zone. You do not want to see the back of his jersey on a day like this. You want to see the front of his jersey. That means that you just got to run up and tackle him. That's fine. Do that 10, 12 times. Can Kansas do that? They didn't think so. And they did and they didn't. It's not like I mean, they only put up what, 20, what was the final score, Chris? 32-28?
I got 28 points.
Yeah, so that wasn't. I mean, that's pretty good for West Virginia, right? So I think more passive, forgiving, and maybe the better word is understanding in the secondary. Like, I understand you're going to give up yardage. I understand you can't do the things we want to do. That's fine. We'll make it work. And that just meant being solid in front of them too, and just not getting out of gaps. Let the quarterback run. Just they did not let 2024 Jalen Daniels be 2023, 2022 Jalen Daniels. That was the key for sure.
Yeah, I think the only thing that concerns me and is that when Kansas found it, they found it. Like
Yeah.
just similar to how, like I said, West Virginia all of a sudden looked amazing and then they were punting. And they're amazing punting. Like their drives are just chunk play, chunk play, chunk play. Moving forward, there were a couple of them, and you noted it in the update thread that were that all the plays were positive. Like they were consistently moving forward. And then yeah, of course, like there were the other drives. I think what was it out of all the drives, they were 50-50 on scoring, or no, less than that. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. So five punts, two turnovers for Kansas, and then four touchdowns. And on those four touchdown drives, it was just chunk plays, chunk plays, chunk plays. And on the other stuff, it was nowhere. They were going nowhere. You know, like eight plays for 14 yards, 6 plays for 5 yards, 5 plays, 16 yards, 6 plays, 14 yards, 3 plays, 5 yards. That the other stuff though, the 10 for 75, the 5 for 75, the 6 for 54, that's more concerning to me. Again, tells me when it's there, it can still be exploited. So not out of the woods yet.
They had their first 17 plays the second half, Chris, were positive plays. That's hard to do. Like no incomplete passes, no zero, no TFLs, no penalties. That's 2+ drives. They had positive plays. And I'm just thinking, this is bad. That's not a good offense. That coordinator's under fire. And they're gonna do this. Are you serious? Here's what it came down to, Chris. And like I think this is very simple, but also very important to point out. That's what happens when you don't trust your quarterback. They did not trust their quarterback. He did not throw a pass until the final drive after the game restarted. It was all handoffs and all runs by him. I'm not even sure there were dropbacks like where he scrambled. Their first two drives were run plays, and the run play for the touchdown, or the drive for the touchdown was all run plays. The 3-and-out was all run plays, and after that, like they did not want him making a mistake. So even when they had like that 3rd and 2 or whatever it was before the turnover or the punt back, there's a million ways you can get him in the perimeter and throw it to the tight end or a guy out of the flat, or Grimm was open the entire game. They did not trust him. And you flip it back, and had Garrett Green played a whole lot better than Jalen Daniels before the delay, I would argue no. And they trusted him, and they got to winning time, as Brown called it. And they said, listen, run around, make some plays, throw this ball to this guy, find a way to get into space with either the reception or the scramble. And you did. And it's really hard to be good in college football. If you don't trust your quarterback, it's really easy to get out of a bad situation, to get on a roll if you trust your quarterback and if he can run. And you just saw that today. Like they did not want Daniels doing anything. And that was part of West Virginia's game plan. Give him openings. And if he can play dink and dunk and like 7 yards, 9 yards, 11 yards over and over and over, sure, tip your cap. They didn't think he could do that. And then Kansas just fell into the trap and said, we're not going to let him ruin this 11-point lead that we've crafted. Like they didn't get the lead with him, and they didn't lose the lead with him. and they're going to have to figure out how to rectify that because that is not a way to live in this conference, in this level of college football, in this sport.
We take a moment to talk special teams, Mike.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
I have some
Um,
thoughts.
I need a moment here, and I'm going to ask all of our listeners to please get the children out of the room for a moment because I want to read something to you, Michael, and it's fantastic. I may enjoy it too much. Kickoff number one into the end zone, returned 18 yards. Kickoff number two into the end zone, touchback. Kickoff number three into the end zone, touchback. Kickoff number four into the end zone, touchback. How does that sound, Mike? That's
He had
just,
4 touchbacks all year before today.
and he had one, two, three, four. Because then
Yeah.
after that, it was a pop up to the 7 yard line. That was the Taurus Simmons
Oh,
flying elbow drop at the 20 yard line for a 13 yard return.
yeah, big
And
rec.
then the final one into the end zone for another touchback. He kicked it in the end zone 5 out of the 6 times. Four of them ended up being touchbacks. The other a return for less than a touchback. There was a man once, Michael, who wrote a story 4 years ago and just copied and pasted it every preseason for the last 4 seasons, saying, just kick the ball in the end zone. Just kick it for a touchback. Today was beautiful. It was
He
beautiful.
really tried to kick one out of bounds though. The second to last one, I thought he kicked out of bounds, and I was just thinking, oh man, Chris was so close to what he wanted.
To a
But no,
perfect game. Yeah.
I also really enjoyed. I was told before the game that they hadn't practiced Fox all week, which is what happened. They didn't practice Fox all week. He wasn't going to play receiver, and they might put him back there just to catch punts because they weren't sure about Gallagher. They think Gallagher's future is in that, but he's not as good as Fox, and we're just not sure. Gallagher was fine. The times he got to return the punts, he was good. I think he caught one cleanly, and then he had like a 16-yard return on one. The other ones, nothing really happened. Chris, with with the game on the line, they go to the bullpen because there are guys in the punt return bullpen, evidently. Who knew? And they put Fox out there, and I'm not kidding, man. Like I don't root for or against anybody. I just watch the game. I was really hoping that something bad didn't happen to Preston Fox because what a spot to be put in. You haven't practiced all week. You're on ice. They're telling you you're not playing. You're not going to play. Okay, you're not going to play receiver. And yeah, you might catch some punts, but for 3+ quarters, hey, we're not going to do it. Okay, we're not going to put you out there. You're not going to be active, whatever. They put him out there, and he cleanly fields 2 punts. But I was just thinking like, man, don't tell anybody, Mike, but you're suddenly rooting for Preston Fox because what a terrible story that would be if something bad happened to him. Like, what if something got pushed into him? What if he just flubbed it? Because like one time he was right on the edge of the sunlight and the shade, and I don't know that could be tricky. The shadows again. I was overthinking because I was really feeling bad for the guy because he got thrown out there at the very last second. So yeah, a lot of things happening there. Um, One thing that did happen that we got to talk about here. Um, I noticed very early in the game, Chris. I had my binoculars out, and I had my eyes in the field, and I was trying to see, all right, what's different, what's different. And Jordan Leslie was not on the sideline. Jordan Leslie is always on the sideline, up to and including 2 weeks ago when he got taken out and got stitches above his eye. You can't get stitches because you can't get tackled in the press box, Chris. He's up above the field. We're talking changes. Yeah, they changed 2 starters on defense. They were gonna play Aiden Garn some at nickelback. They had to play him a ton at spear because of the way Aubrey Burks went out of the game. Very unusual, kind of a scary thing where the offense is on the field and he collapsed on the sideline. and had to be taken off on a stretcher. Brown said he got hurt on defense, but didn't really realize it until he was on the sideline. If you're trying to figure out what happened to Burks, anyways, your defensive coordinator who has been on the sideline for as long as he has been coaching is up in the press box. That's notable to me. That's something that happens when you're trying to change the voices and they explain it away that, oh, there's no emotion, you're not in the heat of the battle, no one's talking to you up there, no players and this and that, you're not trying to, anything that can happen in the field is a distraction. It doesn't happen in the box. That's the spin. I don't know how much he had to do with the play calls. Didn't get a great explanation on that. It sounded like it was the exact same. We've been through this before, so it's sometimes hard to get the answer, but it does sound like he just called the plays down from the box. He was able to observe and report, so to speak, Chris. Very laid back environment. Him and Jeff Coons, and I'm trying to think of who else is up there. Maybe one or two GAs, but they moved Trey Bell, who was the assistant secondary coach. They moved him down. I don't know if Shadon Brown is always in the field. Do you know that? He was on the field today. I can't say I paid a lot of attention to Shadon Brown and where he is during a game, but he was in the field today. The notes say he's in the box. They actually include that in the game notes, but so maybe that was as simple as that. They moved one down and one up. I don't know that it fixed anything, if it changed anything. I suspect it's temporary and that they're going to realize this that might have been just change for the sake of change, and Les is going to be much more comfortable in the field. But perhaps there's something to the explanation. He enjoys the calmness, the serenity of the press box. Press box is pretty sweet, right? Maybe it sticks. I don't know. But what did you think of that? Is there something to it, or is, like I said, just kind of window dressing and hey, people, shut up. We made some changes.
There could be something to it. My first thought was I always think there's a better look up top, up there in the press box. You can see a lot more. You can see the whole field. I always think it's a good idea. I mean, yeah, I get it. They send down we'll call it a satellite view basically to the tablets. So you're getting it on the sideline if you're down there. But I always love the idea of a coordinator, both coordinators, all three coordinators, even special teams coordinators too, being up there in the box and being able to see the full field, the full 22, and getting a read of what they should and shouldn't do. So that was my first thought. The timing is obviously a little, oh, really? Um, Especially, I believe you said it was Jordan Leslie's idea to move up there. Um, Again, to your point, if there hadn't been years and years of shenanigans, if you will, about the offensive coordinator and who's calling plays and who's where and who's what, I probably wouldn't even think twice about this really. But now we might have a mystery on our hands. I don't know.
What do you do during the break, by the way?
Me,
Yeah.
try to calm down the board. Well, today I was rewatching the game. So today I was rewatching the game. Last time when I was like fully invested from the beginning, that was we held a Q and A on the board, didn't we? I think during
Yeah.
the
AMA.
Penn State game. Yeah, we had an AMA, not a Q and A, an AMA. Nobody asked anything not WVU related, at least not some
Yeah.
really good stuff you could have got about Mike. But yeah, what about you? What do you did you go
Yeah.
over there and knock on Jordan Leslie's press box door? What did you do?
No, he was down on the field at that point. I'm guessing he's probably out there eating like orange wedges and Capri Suns with everybody there trying to get hydrated for the game. I was getting trying to get the scoop. Like I saw Ren Baker and I was like, hey man, what are you gonna do about this buyout for your football coach? And he said, we're gonna build a dome in the stadium. Stuff like that happened, right? No, like I actually took the elevator down to the suite level on accident, not an accident, but I was just trying to go down. It's a long story. I don't want to say what I was trying to do, but I went to down the suite level, and man, they had like beer and wine down there. It's like a party going on. Like that, like it didn't stop. So they had like a 2 hour extended, like again, like a second halftime, like a really long halftime. So they're getting lubricated for that game, and I felt great for them when it started because like they had 2 extra hours to get very vibrant.
Yeah,
And then that game unfolded the way it did. They must have been having a great time down at the suite level. So now I'm just thinking like they're gonna have suites now. They're gonna have as many suites as they can and just hope for like thunder and lightning every September because the money they make, but also the satisfaction that people went home with must have been great. But when I came back out to the press box, they delivered a whole bunch of pizza that usually comes in post game, and like I'm here post game, so I don't eat the post game pizza, but like there was like a pizza party up in the press box. That was kind of fun. Didn't have that last time because the delay was so early. Um, but otherwise, yeah, I'm just trying to snoop around as best I can. But I already got my snooping done. I saw Leslie and I was like, is he really off the sideline? And at halftime, I went down and like I was in the number two level making a phone call, and the press box level is on the number two level. It was much more quiet on the second level and the third level. And he came off the elevator and him and a whole bunch of people went in there. I was like, all right, that's official. He's definitely not on the field. He's coaching from the sideline or from the press box during the game. But again, I'm very interested to see where that goes. And very interested to see where West Virginia goes from here because yeah, Oklahoma State does not get it done here. So now Oklahoma State, maybe that's not the hardest place to play. Who knows? They scored 11 points. Looks like they might have a quarterback issue too because they had two quarterbacks in and Rangel played a whole bunch in this game. I haven't seen this game. We'll figure it out as we go along. A lot happened in the Big 12, Chris. Which leads me to Sunday. You'll be trying to wrap your arms around what happened in this conference. That'll lead off our day after coverage. What do you have coming?
yep. We'll have some recruit reactions. Caught up with a handful of guys that were there on campus today. Um, Then we'll have power rankings. We'll have report card. We'll have the PFF grades. No Vegas odds because it's an open week coming up. So take a break from that. Are you happy that I said open week and not bye week?
I said bye week a couple times, but also like if they lose this
So
game,
ashamed of
they're
you.
2 point underdogs. They're 2 point underdogs in the open week. If you can make that joke, right? But not now. They won. Everything's fixed.
There you go.
I hope people are happy. Like that's a losable game. It's a
Yeah.
really losable game. I don't think that Kansas team is very good, and to come back the way they did, like it's really hard to win, and to do what they went through today was non-insignificant. Again, can you build off it? Maybe, maybe not, but like it's a heck of a lot harder to get going again 1-3 than it is 2-2 with that wind in your sails. We'll see. That'll be something I contain in my three things. I think three things I know. We'll look at some snap counts, some really interesting snap counts today. Like they had to like build the plane in the air, Chris, when all the injuries were happening on defense to try to figure out what to do. Crandall and Spears, Crandall and Burks are out. Obviously, Novasteranen. I think Martin was out for a little bit after he rolled an ankle. Like they were really, like I said, trying to build the plane in the air out of whatever they could, and they got it back together and had just about everybody up except Burks back out there when it really mattered. And we'll see where it goes from here. And then yeah, we'll have the Q&A podcast for Monday. Regular news cycle this week not existent because it'll be just Neil Brown on Monday. No coordinators, no players, but got a bunch of players at the game today, including Rodney Gallagher, who I don't think we've talked to Gallagher yet, have we?
Um, I have to go check. I don't think so.
Wouldn't have last year because he was a first year player. I don't think in the spring or the preseason we did, and this is the first time. So got some information about him and what he's thinking about his career and the season, how it's gone. So some good stuff from players today. A jubilant post game. And if you haven't had a chance, go back, watch the players, and just kind of read between the lines. They thought they were getting slept on, and they could have been put to bed tonight, and did not happen to them. They came back. Like I said, we'll see where it goes. Until then, I'm Mike Casazza.
And I'm Chris Anderson.
We will not be back in 2 hours. We're going to cut it right here. That's enough. We'll see you then.